Hi, this is Roger in Finland, and today we're going to take a deep dive into all the possible video options for the Panasonic G9. I'm going to leave out of this video all the picture profiles. The only one that I'm going to mention is HLG, and that's because it has a relationship with the bitrate. And actually, just to get it out of the way, you can only use HLG if you're using a 10-bit file in the Panasonic G9. There's a lot to go through, so today I'm going to rely on pen and paper. First, I'm going to go through all the variables that have an impact on the different video possibilities of the Panasonic G9. Then I'm going to take a look at how are they actually organized in the cameras and in the menu system. And then we're going to take a look at the different use cases and then how to choose in the camera menus depending on those use cases. And that's the content for today's video. I hope you like it, but let's now get into the details. So in the Panasonic G9, we have two possible resolutions. That's 4K and Full HD. And this is 4K UHD, so no DCI. We have 5 possible frame rates. Those are 24, 25, 30, 50, and 60 frames per second. And additionally, we do have the option to use VFR or variable frame rate that goes from 2 to 60 or 2 to 180, depending on a few different variables that we're going to go through as well. I'm going to be referring mostly to normal speed as 25, which is what I'm using, or 24 and 30. Then slow motion, meaning 50 or 60p, and super slow motion when we can use VFR up to 180 frames per second. That's going to be the terminology I'm using. Then there are two different codecs used in this camera, H.264 and H.265. 3 audio codecs, and these are AAC, LPCM, and Dolby. Then we have 4 different formats, AVCHD, MP4, MP4 AGVC, and MOV. All of these are actually encapsulated into 2 different containers, which are MP4 and MOV. We have 2 different color depths, that's 8-bit or 10-bit. We have 2 different chroma subsampling, 422 and 420. There's 1 video compression using this camera, that's long GOP, and that stands by way for a group of pictures. The GH5, for instance, has also all intra. And what long GOP is, that means a group of pictures, is how the image is being compressed. And basically this means that for every frame, it uses information from a group of pictures. So each frame uses information from frames before and or after it to actually make that image. That means that your computer, every time that you want to step into a frame, it needs information from sideways frames to actually build that. And that's why some of these codecs, which are more compressed and have smaller file size, are actually heavier in your computer than some other codecs like all intra and the GH5 that has a huge file size, huge bit rate, but each frame is its own story, and that means that the computer has less trouble to actually display it. And then we have 7 bit rates, and these are 17, 20, 24, 28, 72, 100, and 150 megabits per second. Now the tricky bit is that all these options are not exactly a mix and match. You cannot choose them all, so they are organized in different groups. And now we're going to take a look at how are these actually organized in the camera menus. So what we have is the choice of 4 different formats, and depending on the formats, a ton of options under each one of them. These formats are AVCHD, MP4, MP4 AGVC, and then MOV. If you look into the description in the camera menu, it's going to tell you that AVCHD is designed to work for HD TVs. In practice, it means that we do have only Full HD, we have 420 8-bit, and we have variable frame rate, but only up to 60 frames per second. This is the format that I'm going to be using the least, or actually I'm not going to be using at all. Then we have MP4, and here you have the choice of 4K or Full HD. You can use variable frame rate up to 60 frames per second, and all of these are 420 and 8-bit. That means that HLG is not usable in MP4. Then we have MP4 HEVC. This is the only option actually that uses H.265. Everything else in this camera uses H.264 as a codec. So this MP4 HEVC, that's designed for HDR or high dynamic range televisions, which means also that requires using HLG which means that it can only use 10 bit. So you don't have the options to use MP4, HEVC, H.265, and 8 bit. It's also only in 4K, 420, and 10 bit. And the frame rates here are 20, 25, 30, and 24. Then we have MOV, and here we get 4K or Full HD. The variable frame rate can go up to 60 in 4K, but it can go up to 180 in Full HD. You have the options to use 420 8-bit or 422 10-bit. What you can't do is use 420 and 10-bit. To use that, the only option is the MP4 HEVC. And at this point, you should be a little bit confused. And if you're not, it's because you're just a big nerd like me. But then how do we pick all of this? Because usually when people talk about the cameras, this is a Panasonic G9 and it shoots 4K 60p, and that's it. But then how do you navigate through all of the different options? Why would you choose something on top of the other? And how to answer that super silly question, which is the best format for filming video? Well, it depends. It depends in very many things. I believe that when people want to choose a frame rate or want to choose a video option, one of the first things that they want to decide is the resolution. So whether you want to shoot in 4K or in Full HD. That's the first thing that you want to choose. That will affect the look of the image. The second one is the frame rate. So here we have either normal frame rate, which would be 24, 25, or 30p. Here we're going to have the cinematic guys saying 24, plenty of us European people saying 25, which is close enough to 24, and then those guys like the everyday that like to use 30p, but this will be normal speed. Then we do have slow motion, and that would mean 50p and 60p. And then what I would call super slow motion, which will goes up to 180 frames per second using variable frame rate. Now mention one limitation of that super slow motion. If you're using variable frame rate, and it doesn't matter actually whether it's really slow motion or not at all, you don't get to use autofocus and you don't get any audio. If you want slow motion with autofocus and audio, that means that you will get up to 50p or 60p, both in 4K and Full HD. But this would be the three different things that you're going to take, or these are the two different aspects that you probably want to choose, resolution and frame rate. But then we have different use cases on how are you going to use your video. So one is the people that actually want and like to do a lot of post-production work, whether it's color grading, whether it's using green screens. And for that, you want as much data as possible. That means that you will want to use 422, 10-bit, and the highest bit rate that you can get. Then for those of you that just want to edit, you don't want to at all on your computer, you want smaller file sizes, you don't care about color grading, you don't care about compositing, then here I'm going to suggest Full HD, MP4, 420, 8-bit, since it's going to give you the smallest data rate. And then there's another case, which I think is relevant, and that's if you want to download the videos to your phone or your tablet through the app. And why would you do that? Well, I don't know, maybe you just took a cute video of your kids and you just want to share it in social media with your friends. The video, most likely, it will look better anyway than if it was shot in your phone. So can you transfer it or not to your tablet? There's only one format that allows you to transfer videos to your tablet, and that is MP4, Full HD, 420 8-bit, and works both for normal speed, so 24, 25, or 30p, and also slow motion, that would be 50 and 60p. This is the only format that the app will allow you to actually download from the camera wirelessly into your phone or your tablet. Then I'm not covering the MP4 HEVC. That's designed for HDR TVs. I have no use for it. And if you do, probably actually you know already why you would need that. So go ahead and use it. But H.265 is a codec that is really, really heavy on computers, so I don't want to use it. Now we covered what kind of different use cases you would like to use. So either you want to use 4K or you want to use Full HD, whether it's slow motion or super slow motion or normal speed. We also have talked for the specific case that you actually would like to download the videos to your computer, what do you need to do. But now we could go through the different formats based on these different needs. So if you want to shoot in 4K and normal speed, that will be 25p, also applies to 24p and 30p. You have the option to do it in MP4, that would be 100 megabits per second, 4208 bit. The HEVC, which is 72 megabits per second, 420 10 bit, and again, that forces you to use HLG, and it is designed to be used in HDR TVs. And then you have two options in MOV. One of them is 100 megabits per second, 420 8 bit, and the other one is 150 megabits per second, 422 and 10 bit. That would be the options I would choose for doing the most post-production work. That would be the color grading or compositing, etc. And because it's 10-bit, it allows you to use HLG as well, which is my favorite profile for this camera, given that I'm not using the Vlog paid upgrade for it, as I mentioned in the previous review. Then if you want 4K 60p, which would be slow motion, still with autofocus and audio, you can do this in MP4, 150 megabits per second, 420 8-bit, or in MOV, 150 megabits per second, 420 and 8-bit. So here we have two different formats, MP4 and MOV. Both of them are using the same chroma subsampling, 420, the same bit depth, 8-bit, and the same bit rate, 150 megabits per second. Then if you want to do full HD normal speed recording, that would be 25p or 24 or 30. You can do it in AVC HD, and that's 420 8-bit and 24 megabits per second. I'm never using that. The next option would be MP4, and that's 420 8-bit and 20 megabits per second. And here the exception is that MP4 Full HD 420 8-bit works only in 25 and 30p, but it does not have 24p. I have no idea why. The next two options then are again MOV, and here we have 420 8-bit or 422 10-bit. Both options are 100 megabits per second. And finally, if you want to do super slow motion, and that will be using variable frame rate up to 180 frames per second, which is pretty slow and pretty nice. And remember that you are not getting autofocus or audio. You can only do that in Full HD, MOV, 100 megabits per second, 420 8-bit. So these, my friends, are all the different options and all the different combinations that are possible to choose in the Panasonic G9. I went through some use cases that I think are relevant for you as a user and how to choose specifically the correct option that actually will serve your needs. And as you can see, there's a lot more than this camera shoots 60p. But what else? I hope this video was confusing at the beginning, and when it ended it was a little bit less confusing, and it helps you to choose the correct video option for your case and your application. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon for some more content.